What's going on, Yu-Gi-Oh enthusiast? JP here, back with another video. This time I want to go ahead and do a little bit of what the Terminal Revenge is going to give us, and hopefully we get a ban list so that way we can get ready to use this deck at its fullest potential. That's right, the deck profile that I'm doing yet again will be for Yubel. This time with Yubel, it's going to be a little bit stronger now that we know that the release is next Wednesday for this set, and we're going to get the one card that everybody's been waiting for in here to get started. So if you have a little bit of time on your hands, sit back, relax, let's get right into it. If you haven't done it already, please hit that subscribe button so you guys can be able to be on top of it when I release a new video. Throw a like and post a comment so that way I can get more ideas moving forward for what to do in the future to get you guys the content. Without further ado, this is my deck profile, at least an idea of what we can use going into the new Terminal Revenge in the 2024. Now, the deck profile consists of basically one Yubel, the Ultimate Nightmare. Simple. You don't need any more than that. It's very hard to summon anyway, but like I said, it's much easier when you have the necessary materials, so you don't want to go too far in depth, at least in this situation, to get the Yubel cards out. This is kind of one of those last resort cards, but you can still be able to pull it off when you use this type of situation. So, like I said, one copy of this is fine. Same thing with Terra Incarnate. Terra Incarnate is kind of the midway where we can summon Ultimate Nightmare or we get Yubel back. So you have your pros and cons when you're weighing out the material in this situation. So you don't want to go too far into it. This is kind of where I want it, at least at this point. Next we have 3 Spirit of Yubel. Spirit of Yubel, that girl good. I can't say anything more than that. That girl good, okay? This girl will definitely get you everything that you need spell and trap wise when you have a Yubel. When she's destroyed, she pulls out her original copy. Like, there's nothing wrong with this card. Like, running it at 3 is great. I've seen people run ratios with 2. I want to see this somehow, some way or another. 3 is good. Next, we have 2 regular Yubel. The Yubel is the starter, or sorry, the extender from the Spirit of Yubel play. You kind of want to be able to go ahead and utilize her at her fullest potential. Again, she's the level 10, so it makes, your Z plays into the rank 10 much easier. And you don't ever want to just leave her out on the board by herself if you're not able to pull the Samsara. So it's okay. Like I said, you'll still be able to use a whole lot of fusion material when it comes to using this girl. So I think it's already good right where it is, but you just want to not draw into it, because we took out the Grinder Golem. That card was only good if you had Yubel in the hand and you gave the monster to your opponent, and then you just super poly it away. In that situation, or if you're going second, you could be able to at least gain your life points and do damage, so on and so forth. So I felt like it wasn't doing what I needed it to do now that we have the new fusion. So this is kind of what I wanted to go ahead and throw as an idea for Yubel out. Next, I have 1 Unchanged Soul of Shavara. Basically, it's the Knit and Grit. It just gives you an extending monster. You are able to pull it back out of the graveyard. You use the Yama to pull it back out of the graveyard and just do it again. Like, I just don't see nothing wrong with this card. And it's a destruction card. So it's able to go ahead and extend your plays with Spirit of Yubel, regular Yubel, Terra Incarnate, etc. So that way you can be able to utilize having full field control. So Shavar at 1, I know, is one of those things. If it goes to 3, it would just blow my mind. And I would just be running this portion with the Unchained engine in the deck. Hand traps wise, 3 Ash Blossoms since it's already here. The best hand trap in the game. I can't say no. You always want to be able to at least utilize stopping your opponent in this situation. You do have a lot of deck consistency, so slowing your opponent down so that way he can match you is great. You don't want him to overextend, because if he gets too far into his plays, depending on what he's playing, like Snake Eyes or otherwise, then you're in trouble. But at least having it this way, I think it's good. 2 of our Dart Beckoning Beasts, like I mentioned before in the Market Watch, that this card is just good. It is the brother and sister of all the sacred beasts, but who cares about that? You only care about getting the spell. You get the double summon of a 0/0, and you're able to search itself. So it's stupid. It is wonderful when using this card. So it gets the Dark Beckoning Beast. You get the spell. You play the spell. You search the Dark Beckoning Beast. Simple rotation all the way around. It's really, really good. You're able to get the card plays that you need as long as you have card advantage. 10 out of 10. I love this card. Next, we have two Droll and Lockbird, like I mentioned before. Hand traps are a necessity, at least in here. This is kind of like my idea of what I would want this deck meta to be. You want to slow your opponent down as much as possible. If he's able to combat you with different hand traps, you actually have the necessary card in this deck, which I'll show you in a second, to slow your opponent down from doing that to you, because you want to be able to go ahead and capitalize your plays and slow him down or her down. So you want to go ahead and just do that using these cards. One, Effect Veiler. You don't want to go too much into that. Effect Veiler is really good, like I mentioned. It is the Imperm, but just, in that off chance that you get Effect Veiler, at least you have a card to slow that down or stop it, so that way you can continue your play. Part of the other engine, like I mentioned before, 3 of our Gruesome Grave Squirmer. Just simple. He's the brother of the deck that makes the Yubel play more consistent when he gets to special summon himself and destroy a card that mentions Yubel on the field if you want. If you do have the necessary combo, you just go off from there using the Nightmare Throne into the Terror Incarnate and getting a Yubel back. It's just, you get 3 monsters for the price of 1. Yubel is also good for Link Engine, so you don't want to waste your resources, but you want to at least get enough of a board to play. Also, 2 Samsara D Lotus. Samsara D Lotus is just one of those cards you just want to be able to go ahead and say, hey, guess what? I have a monster that I just summoned, but it's the double summon like from Dark Beckoning Beast that gets you the ascending play. I was thinking about throwing 1 for 1 in here, but I just don't see the room for it. So Samsara D Lotus being here at 2 is good, because you're still able to get a Yubel for free, which is the Spirited Yubel to start the combo. So, Wombo combo, boom, Yubel, 10 out of 10. Next, in here, we have our spell cards. 3, Crossout Designator. I think maining this card is essential, especially with Tenpai being out. Tenpai is very hard to get around when they have a full negate on the board, and you can't activate any of your Yubel monsters. You have to rely on the spell. So half the time, it's not really going to go ahead and do you any good when you lose your Yubel and your combo pieces one by one. So I think running 3 Crossout Designator in here, because you declare a card name and then you banish the card from the main deck, which is, like I said, Droll, Effect Veiler, Ash Blossom, or even in mirror matches, you could banish a Yubel, and you're able to get your Yubel back with the proper cards, so that way you can stop your opponent from doing that play. So it's essential, especially in mirror matches, maining it. You just have the room for it. I don't see a problem with it. So this is kind of my idea. Like I said, it's a deck idea. Still wonderful, 10 out of 10. Going into the specials of the Super Polymerization. This is her favorite card of all time. Her ace card, if you will. I still see running this at 3 because you have all the necessary pieces to take your opponents over. So if he has problem monsters and you just happen to have 1, clear the board. It's fine. You have everything that you need. You just need to go ahead and just play it off as fast as you can, getting the combo pieces and getting ready to play the game as you need to see fit. This deck is more of it's in your favor, but your opponent must play at your pace so that way you can extend and flow through. 1 Mature Chronicle. I don't see any more than this. A lot of the time, they're not going to stop this card unless they stop like the special summon from the graveyard with Ghost Spell, or the Super Poly Search with Ash Blossom. You're getting your banished cards back to your hand, which is good. You can banish 1 from the deck. I think there's one where you can destroy a card on the field, but yeah, I think you destroy a card on the field, so it's whatever. Normally, you would go with 1, 2, or 5 when you're using your tokens. You don't want to really do a whole lot with this card, which is why it's a 1-of. You don't ever need to go that far having multiple copies of this, because the opponent may not be, they may not care about this. Use the counters as you see fit, and then you just lose your counters because you activated the card. So be careful. Like I said, Three Nightmare Pain, best spell in the card game. Um, Need I say more? So when you're doing the attacking, you're able to inflict double the damage, basically, because on certain Yubels like Ultimate Nightmare and the Lovely Defender, and even Phantom of Yubel, I think you're able to inflict the damage, and then Nightmare Pain kicks in to inflict the damage again. So it's kind of like doing double damage every time you do this, and you're able to OTK your opponent, especially if you're the one attacking, because you can basically hit them for a lot of damage, super poly into Lovely Defender, using all the materials needed, and you win the game. Now, all their monsters don't die because you don't die by battle, so you're doing all the hard work in there and the necessity to try to get the OTK. Nightmare Pain also gives you the search of a Yubel monster. Unfortunately, this card does not search Nightmare Throne, and I was thinking about running one Terraforming. Maybe just having it at one will do some good, because you do need to search the field spell to get started, somehow, one way or another. So I might, make this 41, and we'll do a Terraforming. But so far, so good. Three, Opening of the Spirit Gates. I can't not run this at three because of the fact that it has multiple effects. Even though if you only have the one copy once per turn, you still activate all three. So you get a search, you get a special, and then if you have a continuous spell in the graveyard while you control level 10, you can add this continuous spell back to your hand. So you play this card, you throw away a Yubel, you do your combo, you have the Nightmare Pain in your hand, you throw it away to special at level 10. Now you have an extending monster to go ahead and continue a play, and then you activate the effect to add the Nightmare Pain you threw away back to your hand so you could play Nightmare Pain and just do it all over. The synergy in this deck is god awful. Like, it is ridiculous, as I said. It's super consistent. You don't see, once like a hand trap comes into play, that's when you kind of like slow down. Or if there's some like an Omni negate, then it just slows it down. But when you get the engine rolling, your opponent's just staring. Like, he's just like, what do I do now? So it's super consistent. I enjoy running it at three. I see people running it at two, but three is just, it's where it's at. You want to see this card because you can search the Dark Beckoning Beast, like I mentioned before, and then you special a Fiend from the graveyard with 0/0, and half the deck basically is 0/0. So you go off. You just go ahead and play the game. You go off pretty hard in here. Of course, our best card that went up in price because of the fact that we did get our release, Nightmare Throne. Nightmare Throne is definitely the essential card of this deck. If you're not running Nightmare Throne, you have lost your mind. It is good because you can take a Fiend with 0/0, add it to your hand. So that's basically any search that you have a Fiend with 0/0. I was also thinking about doing like a Yubel Fiendsmith. If I get around to it, I might actually do that because it actually searches out Fabled Lori, because Lori, I think, is a 0/0. So you're able to even consistently use that play to a full extent as well to get started with doing your Fiendsmith combo. But I will go into more research with that. I might even do a deck profile for you to get started to get ready for that engine once it comes out in Infinite Forbidden. Nightmare Pain, like I mentioned, also will give you anything that's banished in the deck or in the graveyard who's one level higher or lower than the destroyed Yubel monster you control, and you summon or add it to your hand first, then special summon it, ignoring all summoning conditions. So it is super, super good when you need extra monster on the field. So you get Terra Incarnate and one Yubel back if you do the combo correctly, or you get Ultimate Nightmare and Terra Incarnate back, so on and so forth. Like, it's just really, really good. I don't see nothing wrong with this card. Like I said, three is it's mandatory. um, Next up is one on Abominable Chamber of the Unchained. This is where you get your Shafara plate or your Yama back from the graveyard. You don't really need special summon from the hand because you're already using Shafara to special summon. Now remember, when using Shafara, you're locked into Fiends when you special summon it. So you can't really go into extending plays because you have to wait next turn if you have other monsters in your deck that is not Fiend. So you kind of want to be careful with that, but it sets for the rest of the turn. So you want to do all your combo plays first, and then the Shavaras just happen to be the last piece to solidify a good board where your opponent can't break. then yeah, go into it and then continue moving forward. But I think this is good having it at 1. And then last but not least, 2, Eternal Favorite. I don't ever see myself needing to run 3. Not because usually I'll either brick my hand when I draw too many of these, and this is just a next turn, but I don't have any of the combo pieces to get started. So just having this at 2 because it's searchable anyway is good enough. And this is what I would want to go ahead and do when I play the deck. Now, going into our extra deck, pretty easy. We used to have this at 3 because it was the only fusion that was necessary, at least at the time. But now I can go to 2. But it's still a wonderful, fun card when using the situation because you could burn your opponent in time for damage using his entire board and your board for a fusion. And then at the same time, can't be destroyed by battle or card effects, which is already the cherry on top of the cake. And then you take no battle damage. At the same time, when you attack, you can banish the card. So it's kind of just like a walking Fenrir, but unfortunately it's after damage calculation where Fenrir is during the battle. So the minute you declare the attack, that's when it happens. So it's okay. Like I said, 2 of this card, mwah, wonderful. I love it. Next, I've actually used this card a lot more than I have the Dragostapelia, because I've actually used this to get out of Dragoon a lot, especially when it comes to branded players. Branded players usually use Mirror Jade, and they go into this guy, and then I just happen to Super Poly, using the 3 monsters on the board for this. So I think it's wonderful. It's just one of those cards that you just like, hey, I need to get out of this real quick. So it is a good one of when you use fusion playing. Next we have, of course, this is a Duel de Resistance, Phantom of Yubel. I'm not gonna lie to you. If I was Jaden, this would be my girl. So yes, Phantom of Yubel is a wonderful 3 of. Consistently locks out your opponent because if they activate anything, you can just simply tribute it and it becomes destroy 1 Yubel in the deck, hand, field, whatever the case. I think it's just amazing. Its fusion material, like I mentioned before as well, is 1 Yubel and 1 Fiend with 0. If it's in the graveyard, you just shuffle them back. Now, I did do some research. Unfortunately, you cannot use Phantom of Yubel as material because it states in the very first part of its text that it cannot be used as fusion material. So even though it's a special summon, it's still part of a fusion combo, which stops this card from being manipulated back into the deck for you to constantly summon it. Now, there are other cards that might be able to return these back to the deck, or you can just, because you've already summoned it before, you can just special summon it. You have all of the Yubel cards to utilize in the situation to be able to bring back. If it gets banished by a Bestial player, you get it back. It's just like, it's ridiculous. Like, I think this card is really, really fun. Like I said, I did put the Dragostapelia in our next part of our list here. It still is a good viable card because you take one of your fusions and one of their darks, and then now you have a negate on the field as well while putting tokens on everybody as a quick effect. So still not a bad card. I still like this thing. It's amazing. And then if you have the Triverum, or excuse me, Triverum, I try to pronounce it, but it's just one of those. When you have this guy, it's just even better because it gains the attack of everybody with a Predator counter. So especially if you summon this and then out of nowhere you summon this, it's going to get the attack of everything you negated. So I think it's just really wonderful. Next part of our list, Ace Spade Speculation. I don't know why they named it this, but please, thank you for giving us this card. I love this card. I would want to run 3 in this deck if I possibly could. Don't have the room. But if I were to go ahead and use fusions only, this is a 3 of. You have a monster with 2,500 or more attack and 1 face down. So you just immediately know what your opponent is playing. He's going to have a monster that's just severely high in attack points. You put 1 face down and you play Super Poly. Simple as that. It's just really, really good. And it says a monster with 25 or less defense. So virtually anything in this deck has no defense. wonderful move. Um, I think it's just wonderful. Like you take their Transcendent, put a face down, super poly. Wonderful. Ace spade speculation, cool. Um, it's funny, you can attribute attack position monster in one face down and start summoning this from the graveyard. So when it's already summoned successfully and it goes to the graveyard for whatever reason, you just bring it back. It's as simple as that. It's wonderful. There's nothing wrong with this card. He gains the attack of the highest attacking monster on your opponent's side of the field. And if there's a defense position monster, it's going to do piercing. So he's going to gain all this attack and start piercing. If the, I guess they say, price is right. Next on here is one Garura. Garura is really, really fun. It just takes away the monsters. You already know what it does. You get the one draw if it goes to the graveyard, so on and so forth. Do double damage if he's attacking. Simple, just one. We have the Varudaz, the final bringer of the end of times. Like I said, the best rank 10 in our new upcoming future. Nothing wrong with this card. I don't see multiples of 3, but I still think it's good. One access code talker. You do have enough monsters to make this guy, and especially if you're doing the link combo that I'd be doing a lot, you can get this out easily and OTK your opponent. So it's super good. I wish I did have other link monsters in here to go about removing cards on the field because of its effect. Still good, none of the case. One Anguish, because you, during your turn, immediately after it resolves, you just link it away for another monster your opponent controls. Whereas the Rage needs a special summon monster. So this one's much easier. So you just summon this guy after using Rage. On your opponent's turn, you summon Anguish. Now you have a 2400 beater. They don't do nothing with it. You use Anguish in one of their monsters for access code. Mwah, super. And then he gains the attack of Anguish. Link rating, which will be 53 when he hits the board. Now you have a 5300 beater and probably your Yubel combo to keep going, and it's just an OTK. So you decide. I think it's wonderful. Next one, Yama. Yama is just basically get your pieces out, but you need the Shavara. The Shavara gets you the special summon. You blow up Yama. You set the trap face down after Shavara gets sent to graveyard, so on and so forth. You already know the combo. Unchained. Just this small engine enough. Ready to go. Excuse me. The next Unchained Soul of Rage. Just one of them. You don't need any more than that. Remember, if your opponent were to special summon, immediately take it off the board. And you go on this girl. Excuse me. You go on the SP Little Knight. SP Little Knight is just too good of a card. Like, don't ask me. SP Little Knight is just necessary when it comes to these card games going forward. So this is it for this engine of the deck profile. I just want to go ahead and get you situated, or at least take a look at what is to come. The final thing I wanted to go ahead and do to at least get you on the road here, and it is sort of a little long, but I just wanted to go ahead and at least say that if you make a side deck, it could look like this or something different. Two Nibiru, especially if you're going second, you just stop your opponent, throw the Nibiru out there. You got everything going. This is the next part I wanted to go ahead and explain. The Ghost Reaper and Render Cherries. You do want to see this girl, especially if you come across like a mirror match or a Tenpai player. You don't ever want them to summon any Yubel combo to stop you from playing a Yubel combo. If you're playing Tenpai, you take away their Bryden, and you just basically win at that point because they can only synchro summon into 7s. They would have to force themselves using all the monsters they control for a level 10, but they can't go for the OTK because there's not enough. They won't have enough material to extend. I did see this once before, and it does work. So Ghost Reaper and Render Cherries is kind of one of those secret techs. I still think it's, viable amongst its sisters. So other than Ashwell Summoning Girls, but I like it. Like I said, secret. Next we have Starving Venom Fusion Dragon. Again, this is one of those, I don't need Trivarantum. You just go ahead and switch it out for Starving Venom. Now you have a 15 card extra deck. If you already know what your opponent is playing and you get ready to decide, again, the one Biden, you just take it, side it out with something in your extra deck, and you just wipe away their Biden once they go into their full combo. Because they can't go into battle the first turn. They summon the Pydra to get their combo ready. They do the Sanjin summoning, yada, yada, yada. and then you just activate Ghost Reaper, rip Bryden right out of the extra deck, so they can't go into that 7. They would have to use like Moonlight Rose or Black Rose to continue a play. So this is good. I enjoy this. 2 Lightning Storm. It's the Raigeki or the Harpy's Feather Duster. Nothing else to explain. This is my favorite tech, 3 Book of Eclipse, because if your opponent were to combo or to get things started, you Book of Eclipse the whole field. And again, like I mentioned before, that Super Poly card, that Super Poly target goes into this. So 1 monster with 2,500 or more attack, 1 face down defense position monster. The face up monster does not have to count. So you can take 2 face downs and use Super Poly because you already know knowledge of your monsters that went face down currently on the field, especially your opponent as well. So you can take one of your face downs, one of their face downs, and just use Super Poly to go into ace space speculation. Try to clear the board as fast as you can with Book of Eclipse. This is kind of one of those retro aggressive cards that I would like to use instead of being defensive, because it gives your opponent a draw once they flip everything back up. So you kind of want to be, like I said, you want to be retro progressive on this. And what I mean by that is playing it on your turn, so that way you can at least get more out of the card and clearing board than just sitting and waiting and probably getting OTK next turn once they draw the amount of cards for the monsters they have. Last but not least, 3-dimensional barrier, self-explanatory. You just stop Synchro, you stop Fusion, you stop Xyz from summoning. So even Ritual, those who running Voiceless Voice out there, still holding on to faith. This is just one of those cards. So again, in my deck profile, I hope you guys appreciate it. Remember to do the 3 things that we always want you to do when you support your Yu-Gi-Oh! YouTube creator. Remember to comment, remember to like, and hit that subscribe button. Again, JP, signing out.